Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Mr. Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York City, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show, and welcome to Tuesday.
It was supposed to be Trivia Tuesday.
It was supposed to be Trivia Tuesday. Just let's pull out a trivia thing.
All right.
We have Nitai Lieberman on the show. We can quiz him.
All right.
How old do you think he is? Nitai, right on the board, how old you are? 10 years old? 8 years old? I'm going to quiz you. I'm going to quiz you, Nitai Lieberman. Who is Lord Ram's father? Okay, you got to write that down. If you know it, Nitai Lieberman, you can stay on the show. If not, we're going to have to ask you to leave.
Oh, come on.
Just kidding. I'm just kidding, Nitai. I love you. Okay. Sweet kid. Got to get my kid up early.
Nitai. You got it.
Oh, he got it.
Yes.
Oh, he got it. Ooh. Pretty good, Nitai Lieberman.
Right.
Mara, did you know that? Did Mara know it?
Yes, I know.
Mara's like, oh, of course I knew it.
Yes, I knew.
Welcome, everybody. This is the study of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. The Srimad-Bhagavatam is considered the essence of all yogic education. There's a lot of stuff to learn in yoga. You can learn alignment, you can learn breathing, you can learn meditation, you can learn, what else can you learn in yoga? Ayurvedic medicine, you can learn
Therapy.
Yoga therapy, yoga. It's all important. It's all important to our well-being, to ultimately calm the mind, to ultimately connect with the self, and to ultimately have the self connect with the divine. And the Bhagavatam brings you right there in meditation on the form of divinity. And it does that through transcendental stories and deep, relevant wisdom. Even though the book is very old, I find it incredibly relevant. And the yogis of ancient times say it must be read every day. And then it starts to recalibrate our brain. My brain needs a little recalibrating on a regular basis, so I'm glad we have this live Zoom group of about 82 people today. And then we have about 15 or 17,000 people listening live every day. It's quite impressive. The Zoomers, we call them the Zoomers. And the other people out there listening, we call them the others. And if you are one of the others out there, let us know you're out there. We'd love to hear your story. Everybody's got an interesting story, you know what I mean? How they got to Bhakti on their journey home. You can let us know. We used to have you write us in and tell us your story, but now I think if you just go to Apple Podcasts, you can write a review, and then you can tell everybody your story because it's interesting, and people want to know people want to know about you. Other, don't just float out there like a cloud. Don't be so cloud-like. Share your identity with us. Also, we have some special things we want to announce first. We have Shama Sundar this Sunday. Really special guy. He was the guy that basically popularized the Hare Krishna movement in the 60s because he befriended the Beatles, and he ended up living with John Lennon. This guy's got so many incredible stories. You could just have like episodes. You could have, I guess he does have, he has 2 books of all these stories, but we're going to pick his brains about stories about the Beatles, about John Lennon chanting Hare Krishna, Yoko Ono, what was her problem? No, we're not going to talk. We're not going to talk about Yoko.
But it's not
George
just
Harrison.
Beatles. You see, you're fixated on the Beatles. You go before that. He was one of the people that kicked off the whole Haight-Ashbury scene in San Francisco. Right? That's
too.
meaningless.
We can talk about that too.
Okay.
We can talk about that too. I think the people out there, the majority of our Zoomers, want to know about the Beatles. I think we should focus on the Beatles. See, look at Nancy Rothman. She's giving an Indian yes.
Just saying
She's
no.
like, yes, 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 the Beatles. Oh, yes.
No,
Oh,
there's
yes.
more than the Beatles.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh, Mata.
You say no, and you're saying yes. No.
Is it an Indian yes?
She said no.
So we are going to dive deep into Ringo, John, Paul, and how much they love to chant the holy name. He's got lots of stories. We're going to touch on everything. And
It's you mentioned that cartoon, Commander is it McBragg? Commander McBragg. I went back and I found it on YouTube. Yeah, I was going back. But he's not like Shyam Sundar. He doesn't brag, but he's got tons of crazy stories like Commander McBragg.
He's got tons of crazy stories, and he traveled with Prabhupada all around the world like that. Yeah. Yes, he's just got a lot. Well, you know what was happening, and I met him a long time ago, and then I met him again when he was writing his book at the Govardhan Eco Village in January. He was living there, and we just always have dinner together. And he's just like a wealth of information. And this is like
person though, right? Like
super humble, super approachable,
no
super
pride
sweet
about it or anything like that. Just like soft-hearted person.
Yeah, I love people like that.
Yeah, that's the best.
And you know what I feel? I'm coughing. I had a
We
scary,
picked up on that.
I had a scary dream last night. I woke up.
Oh.
It was like one of those.
Hold it. First, let me ask a question. What did you watch before you went to bed? Were you watching Bird Box?
You know what I was listening to, my friend?
Yeah.
I was listening to a Srimad-Bhagavatam lecture before I went to
Scary
bed.
one?
Thank you.
About the snake bird or something?
No, I can't. Truthfully, I can't remember what it was, but all I remember was it was a very sort of eerie dream I had where I felt I've never had anything like it. It must have been some dark spirit entered my consciousness because I was like, I woke up, I turned on I got to turn on the lights, threw cold water. I got to get this, whatever, Sometimes I feel like when you're sleeping, your subtle body leaves, and you got to like, okay, or if there's a subtle body inside you, I had to like get the cold water out, turn on all the lights, shake. And then I put on the Nishringa Kavacha on my iPhone. I went back to sleep with a Nishringa Kavacha. These prayers to Lord Nishringadev. I think I got rid of it. Really?
Well, I guess we'll find out during the show whether that dark spirit has possessed you still or not.
Come on, do you ever get those ghostly dreams, Kaustubha? Come on.
I've been clamped before, but we're not going into that, Raghu, today. We're going to read Srimad-Bhagavatam. We're not going to the story.
They talk about that in the Srimad-Bhagavatam. There are subtle, unembodied
if that comes up,
that are malefic, and then try to enter your body through your weak tamasic openings. They enter in, they become part of you. They appear like they're part of you. They're actually multi-entities living inside your frame, your meat corpse.
If you could name a place in the Bhagavatam that speaks exactly about that, let's read it. If not, let's read what we got lined up.
We got realized. I'm just sharing that people may want to hear about certain things like that. We can't keep partial truth, Kaustubha. We got to give them everything.
Okay.
You can't keep withholding these secret things from them.
Cover up.
I accused him yesterday of withholding alien information.
Yeah. And then he speculated that perhaps Mara is in on it.
I said Mara's been compromised.
She's been compromised by the government.
You know why? Because there's this devotee that is like expert at aliens, and I'm trying to get him on the show. And Kaustubha's like, well, we got to think about it. I was like, I don't have to think about it. It's black and white. And he kept on pushing it off so many times. I started thinking, maybe Kaustubha's in on the conspiracy to downplay the
You say I'm pushing it off. It's not that I'm pushing it off again. I pushed it off once. I said, okay, well, let's look into what we could do. And then you keep bringing it up again as if we didn't agree on that together. And then I remind you of what we'd agreed upon, and you're like, oh, he pushed it off again. And then you bring it up
My
again.
question
And
is,
then
how long does it take? How long you go back, you think about it?
well,
Yeah,
we
let's
brought it
do
up yesterday, and I did a lot of work for Wisdom of the Sages yesterday while you were running around having your ghost dreams. I was working hard trying to create a website and do all these different things. You're running around there with your animals on the farm. I was working all day yesterday, Bubba.
All right. I know Mara would be interested. Okay, let's get into this.
There's, I know Mara would be. But I think you're right. I think we should do the alien stuff. I think, because I started
It's
thinking,
like a special interview episode. The guy studies it. Why not?
Well, this is my point. We mentioned yesterday that we had mentioned previously that when we finish the first canto, we might like veer off into other stuff without going too far off, right? But keeping it connected. I'm thinking of ordering a copy of Alien Identities because I haven't read that book in a very long time. And maybe we ought to spend a day or two. Maybe we ought to spend a day or two with Alien Identities and seeing how it connects with Bhagavatam and Mahabharata, right? You into that, Raghu?
Yeah, I'm totally into it. I want to
And
do
then
a
maybe
full
we could do
thing.
that interview that you're talking about and connect the whole thing.
I'm on Amazon right now. I don't even think you can get this book anymore. Oh, you can.
You're ordering it.
I'm ordering it right now.
Is
I'm
it
going to
there?
put it up on.
I'm gonna order it.
I'm going to put it up on the board right now so people
Alien
can see
Identities.
it. You're on Zoom. You're going to get this link. I want everybody to get this. Sadly, I need everything on Audible, or else I don't even digest it. But there it is. Alien Identities. The whole thing's real.
By Richard Thompson.
Richard L. Thompson.
Sanaputa. It's a great book.
Yeah,
I remember I was reading Alien Identities once, all alone. I was traveling alone. I was in a van. I was in I used to pull my van like just in the parking lot of some motel or something like that, you know, in the back. And I was sitting there reading Alien Identities. And then I was hearing these weird sounds like the aliens are coming for me. But then I looked outside. It wasn't any alien or anything like that. It was something else.
He's got great lectures, this Sadaputa, also on YouTube.
He's brilliant. He was another one of these people that's like Sham Sundar. He's like this person of great adventure, but totally humble. And Richard Thompson or Sataputa, he was this incredible scientist, incredible scientific mind, but totally humble.
Totally humble, and like a really humble brahmachari. He was brahmachari most of his life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alien. Yeah, Aussie Steve's talking about it. Alien sightings. Aussie Steve. That's Australia's like the land of alien sightings.
Is it?
All right, let's get into this, Kaustubha. You're going off on a tangent.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's start with our secret incantations. Narayana Smrti naram chaiva narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tatojayam udirayat.
What was that?
I don't know. Before reciting the Srimad-Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances to the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, and to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Prayeshva Badreshu Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service to the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Midatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Reading from the Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 1, Text 5.
So we're picking up here. We went back yesterday and we read how Maharaj Parikshit asked some questions to Sukadeva Goswami at the end of the last chapter. And among those questions is, what is the duty of a person who's about to die? What should they hear? What should they chant? What should they remember? What should they not do? Right?
Mm.
And yesterday we heard about what they shouldn't do, just get totally absorbed in materialism and just, let their spiritual life. But today we're going to hear about what they should do, the positive alternative. And why don't we go ahead and just read a little section?
Let's read a section.
And then we'll go back and we'll dip into the commentaries. All right? You can read a little section.
Text 5. We'll just keep going, and then we'll go back for the commentaries. Gotcha.
Okay. Let's read text 5 through 11.
O descendant of King Bharat, one who desires to be free from all miseries, must hear about, glorify, and remember the personality of Godhead, who is the super soul, the controller, and the savior from all miseries.
Okay.
That's
exactly what he asked
we're doing right
about.
now.
That's what Parikit asked about. He said, Yach trotavyam, what should they hear? Ato japyam, what should they chant? Smartavyam, what should they remember? So this was a direct answer to that question.
You must hear about, glorify, and remember the personality of Godhead.
Okay.
The highest perfection of human life achieved by either complete knowledge of matter and spirit, by practice of mystic yoga powers, or by the discharge of occupational duties. This is karma, jnana, and bhakti, right?
Yeah. Or
the highest
yoga,
perfection of human life,
right?
achieved by complete
jnana,
knowledge
yoga.
of matter and spirit. That's jnana.
Jnana.
Practice of mystic powers. That's yoga.
Mystic yoga, yeah.
Isn't it interesting how the practice of mystic powers has nothing to do with yoga nowadays? But that's what it was. You're doing yoga to develop mystic powers. We're not doing it so we can just do lotus or, jump back to chaturanga. It's like, I want to levitate. I want to pull a Shiva lingam out of my mouth. That's what I want to do. That was like a goal of yoga, to do stuff like that.
For some people.
Well, I'm just saying that was what people did. They learned they learned cities.
For some of the yogis.
I'm just saying it wasn't a physical the physical practice was
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying for some, not for all.
No, for people practicing yoga, though, that's what yoga was. It was to attain siddhi. It wasn't to attain, shapely abdomen. You know what I mean? That was like the last thing on their mind was like.
Fair enough. That's
right.
Yeah.
It was the goal of it was cities. You get some health.
For some people, it was cities, right? But not for everyone. Some people were doing it for liberation. Some people were doing it, for cities. Was almost like, it's interesting. I gave this class and I posted part 1 last week about karma, jnana, and bhakti, right? And someone said, what about yoga? What about Ashtanga yoga? How does that fit into it? And the thing is, see, because karma, jnana, and bhakti, 3 different ways of seeing the world. And the Ashtanga yogi, they may be doing it for material purposes like mystic powers. That's like a karmic way of approaching it. And some of them were doing it for liberation, right? Which is like a jnanic way of approaching it. And some are doing it to find God in the heart, which is like a bhakti motivated way of doing it, right? So some were doing it for mystic powers, but not everyone. Fair enough?
It's fair enough.
Okay.
Fair enough. I don't think anybody in the United States said, I want to start yoga. I want to learn some mystic powers.
There's a few rare individuals, though.
You're rare. Doing stuff for mystic powers.
So we had 3 things mentioned here, 3 kind of paths, right?
Complete knowledge of matter and spirit. That's jnana.
Jnana yoga.
Practice of mystic powers. That's yoga.
Mystic yoga.
Or the discharge of occupational duty. That's karma.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. So the perfection of all that, where those all lead, this is so important. This is what Bhagavad Gita illustrates. Not everybody picks it up, but if you learn it under a good teacher, you can see that all the different paths that are validated in the Bhagavad Gita, they're valid because they lead towards bhakti.
Yeah.
Right.
The goal of all of them is to remember the personality of Godhead at the end of life.
This is a famous verse, Ante Narayana Smrti. The goal of it all, it's so important. It's like I keep going back because it's just such a great example. But this lady, she was 36 years old. She just passed away a week ago, right? Shamali. She wasn't like a powerful mystic yogi. She couldn't levitate. She couldn't do all the austerities that these yogis can do. You go out, wander off alone to the forest and you live off just the berries and you sit alone in that cave fearlessly. doing this stuff, or these Gyanis that with their also very austere lifestyle,
Yeah.
kind of cold renunciation that they practice. She
All those
was,
things are interesting. I find them all very fascinating and interesting. Living in caves, interesting. Living with
Interesting.
wild animals, interesting. Eating berries, foraging for your food, interesting. Mystical powers, very interesting. I find them all interesting.
Yeah.
It's just not the goal.
But and they're very hard to do. Most people cannot do that. Most
Yeah.
people can't live their lifestyle. But she achieved the goal that these are all meant to lead. Ante Narayana Smrti.
Well, you know what happens also, Kaustubha, and I think this is popular, and Aditi and Krishna Jew and our Indian correspondents can tell us, is, you get into sometimes a path. It happens to America. Like, I grew up Catholic. Why? I didn't choose it. It was just sort of like, here, we're going to church. It's Sunday. Hey, it's Christmas. We're going to church. It's Sunday, or it's Christmas. You just get sucked up into these. So people get into their spiritual tradition or path in India because their parents got into it. And you just learn the rituals of your parents. You go to the ashram of your parents. Oh, this is a great sadhu. He's like a family priest. So you might get into a total karma school, or you might even get to a mystical school and not even understand, like, where is this whole thing going anyway? Just like in the way people get into yoga in America, and they don't, like, what does this have to do with Ganesh? Like, I see a picture of Ganesh, but, like, what does this updog have to do with Ganesh? And you need to zoom out to see the bigger picture. The Bhagavatam is the ultimate zooming out of everything, right? To see the bigger picture. Okay, you're at point A, you got to get to point Z. And there's all these little steps in between. And that's the beauty of the Bhagavatam. It tells you, it doesn't say there's not mystical powers. It doesn't say there's not the knowledge between matter and spirit in Jnana Yoga. It doesn't say there isn't meditation or healing or medicine or scans. But it shows you what they are in perspective with this most big picture. And what's the big picture? Life is short, you're about to die. The goal of all of this stuff, even the goal of the cultural arts of India, like dancing and cooking and what are some other cultural arts?
Oh, there's so many. Music.
So many.
Drama.
Drama.
But the point that I was making was that these are very difficult processes to practice. And when we read about them in these ancient texts, it may seem like fascinating, but I could never do that, and I could never achieve that goal. But what the and again, Sukadeva Goswami, he's representative of that foremost transcendentalist, right? He's totally otherworldly.
Yeah.
Right. And all the sages are sitting there like respecting him, even though he's 16 years old. Right. They all get it. And he's saying that the goal of all these yogas is Ante Narayana Smrti, is that one, at the time of death, one's mind is entirely focused on Narayana, on God. And so my point was that someone like the Shamali, who wasn't a mystic yogi, she wasn't, someone with practicing a life of cold, hard renunciation or walking one of these very difficult paths. She described her life. It was so nice growing up in that Hare Krishna community. And, I remember the festivals, and I remember, and that lifestyle, which is a lifestyle that's entirely directed towards remembering God, was enough to bring her to that goal.
Mm.
Right? It's a great thing. It's an amazing thing. You don't seem impressed.
What's that?
You don't seem impressed with what I'm saying.
I'm very impressed.
Okay.
Just checking. Very impressed.
Okay.
All right.
Text
7. O King Prickett, mainly the topmost transcendentalists, who are above the regulative principles and restrictions, take pleasure in describing the glories of the Lord. What does it mean there, Kaustubha? Why are they above the vidhi or the vaidhi bhakti?
What he's saying here is that you're just saying,
Topmost
remember,
transcendentalists, they don't practice regulative principles? They don't restrict their senses?
well, you see, we practice all those regulative principles, all the rules are for people who need them. They're like medicines so that people can become well. But if you're already well, you don't need to take the medicine, right? Yeah. So all the duties in life and all the rules, they're applying for, if my mind is uncontrolled, I need to start to set some rules. It's controlling me right now. I need to set some rules. But if my mind has no power over me, well, then I'm free. And if those people that are already free, whose minds aren't controlling them, who have achieved the goal of yoga by conquering the mind, if those people choose to if they find interest in Bhagavatam, in the glories of the Lord, in hearing these bhakti-related pastimes, then that means that this is entirely transcendental. And so someone could have questioned the previous verse and saying, so you're saying, but isn't the perfection of Jnana Yoga just to merge into the oneness? Isn't that the highest thing? And not to constantly remember the personality of Godhead, this form, isn't form limited and temporary and so on? Yeah. And he's saying, no, the topmost transcendentalists, even the ones that are so transcendental that they're beyond the principles and the restrictions that all the other yogis that are trying to still achieve the goal need to follow, they take pleasure in Bhagavatam, in describing the glories of the Lord. You get it? Make sense?
Gotcha.
And then okay,
it's not
great.
an out. Not an out. Okay, I'm above it.
And then someone could ask, any examples? Can you give any examples of these transcendentalists who are beyond the regulative principles that took interest in bhakti even though they were already liberated? And what's the example that he gives? Himself.
Me.
Next two verses.
O descendant of King Bharat, one who desires to be free from all miseries. Wait a second.
No. You're text 8 now.
I'm text 8. So I went back to the beginning. At the end of Dwapara Yuga, I studied the great supplement of Vedic literature named Srimad-Bhagavatam. He's reading the Srimad-Bhagavatam too. So obviously it exists.
He was told by his father.
I'm reading the very thing I'm speaking about right now.
Well, he's repeating it. He's repeating it.
I know, but I'm saying obviously there must have been another form of the Bhagavatam that didn't include this sentence, right?
Yeah, well,
because the Bhagavatam was originally like 4 nutshell verses of Lord Brahma. So there's a different version of the Bhagavatam which didn't include him as the speaker.
Yeah, again, Bhagavatam is going to mean ultimately it's going to mean the glories of Bhagavan.
Right.
And he's heard those from his father, and now he's going to repeat them.
Because you could really get caught up here in a Fibonacci spiral if you hear this.
Okay, you saved us. You saved us, Eric. Good one.
At the end of Dwapara Yuga, I studied this great supplement of Vedic literature named the Srimad-Bhagavatam, which is equal to all the Vedas. From my father, Srila Dvaipayana Vyas. Here's a trivia question for you, Mara. What does Dvaipayana mean?
Oh, I don't know.
You know, Kaustubha?
Well, Dvi? Any clue what that, or like Dvi? Yogis should know this from the Dvi, Dvi this and Dvi that asanas.
Two?
Means two, yeah, okay. And I guess it's apayana refers to, I guess you probably won't get this, but it means 2 islands, right?
I thought I didn't know it meant 2 islands. I just thought it meant he was born on an island.
Or he was born on an island.
He was born on an island because there was a sage who approached his mother on a boat.
Yeah.
His mother was the boat. His mother was, Vyasadev's mother is Satyavati.
One who was born, Dvipa. There it is. Dvipa is an island.
It's Dvipa.
Yeah.
There you go.
Dvaipayana means one who was born on the island. There we go.
Thank you, Arpin. And his mother, the sage, approached her on a boat and gave her this child. And so he was immediately born. She maintained her virginity. It was a virgin birth. And that's how Vyasadeva was born. So he's known as the island born.
Okay.
Island girl. Island girl. Island. Sorry. That very Srimad-Bhagavatam. That very Srimad-Bhagavatam I shall recite before you.
Hold it. You're jumping verses, right?
O saintly king, I was certainly situated perfectly in transcendence, yet I was still attracted by the delineation of the pastimes of the Lord, who is described by enlightened verses.
Okay. So he gave an example, right? He said that all of the different yoga paths, whether it be Jnana Yoga, Mystic Yoga,
whether it's the practice of karma, everything that's laid out in the Vedic literature, it's all meant to lead to bhakti. It's all meant to lead to hearing Bhagavatam. And then to substantiate that, he said, even the great mystic, who are beyond all the rules and regulations, those liberated transcendentalists, they're interested in it. You want an example? There's myself. I was perfectly situated in transcendence, but I took an interest in these enlightened verses that glorify Krishna. Okay.
I think this is actually super important especially for yoga teachers in our culture to read these verses too, because yoga gives, our practical yoga classes give so much strength. They give us so much flexibility. They add a sense of calm to us. They give us a type of flexibility where perhaps we had no flexibility. Sometimes we could doing things almost like acrobatic things we could never do before. It's very easy with all those wonderful gifts you get from the yoga system to get caught up in your ego. And if our yoga practice is taking us there, we're doing something wrong in our yoga practice. Everything that we get as a gift from yoga ultimately should bring us to this point of all these great things that are happening with my body. It's not even me. The body is something that I have, and that it's a gift, and I'm going to maintain this gift. Like if I loan you something, I hope you maintain it. It's been a gift from material nature. I'm going to maintain it. I'm going to cleanse it. I'm going to detoxify it, and I'm going to use it to give back. That's what bhakti yoga is. And therefore, I'm not going to get proud of this body or I'm not going to be self-absorbed in my body. That will put us back 5 steps on our spiritual path. But actually, we're here to remember my connection with divinity. What do you think about that little squirrel chasing, Kaustubha?
All right.
It's the goal. You've got to hear this. This stuff's important. All right. Text 11.
No, text 10.
Text 10. That very Srimad-Bhagavatam I shall recite before you, because you are the most sincere devotee of Lord Krishna. One who gives full attention and respect to hearing Srimad-Bhagavatam achieves unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord, the giver of salvation.
You know what that verse is called right there, Raghu?
The Palgu.
Not Palgu. Palgu.
Palgu. The Pal. The Pal
Shruti.
Shruti.
Yeah. Palgu would mean you go crazy by hearing. Fal Shruti means the fruit of hearing.
Pagal. Falgu means false.
Oh, false. Yeah, the false.
False.
That's right.
Pal is the fruit. Is Pal Stuti or Shruti?
Shruti. Hearing the Shrutis, right?
Hearing the Shrutis.
Fal Shruti. The benediction that you get from hearing. That very Srimad-Bhagavatam I shall recite before you, because you are the most sincere devotee of the Lord. One who gives full attention and respect to hearing Srimad-Bhagavatam achieves unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord, the giver of salvation. So you got 7 days left. Give your full attention, right? That's what he's saying. And
on a very interesting side note, do you know what the Indian name for cherimoya is? You know what ever have a cherimoya fruit? They're like the most delicious fruits. You can only get them in California.
Oh, it's not. You're thinking of the sitafal?
Sitapal.
But it's different. Sitafal's a little I mean, it's similar.
It's this fruit. It's the same thing. The
It's not the
California
same
ones are a little bigger. It's the same fruit.
Very different flavor.
Look at Mara. She's like, who do I believe? Who do I listen to?
It's similar.
Mom and Dad are fighting again.
It's similar, but it's not exactly the same.
It's not. It's the same. Oh,
Raghu.
it's the same thing. Raghu. There's also a Rampal. There's a Sitapal and a Rampal.
I've had them both. The sitafal is super sweet.
They're like little cherimoyas. All right, I want someone to, Mara, Google that up. You're going to see it. Sitapal, P-A-L. Okay, text 11. Do you want to do text 12 or you want to just go back?
Text 11 we can do.
O King, constant chanting. This is beautiful. O King, constant chanting of the holy name of the Lord after the ways of the great authorities. Isn't it interesting? This is thousands of years old, but they're speaking of great authorities existing for a very, very long time, right? Constant chanting the holy name of the Lord after the ways of great authorities is a doubtless and fearless way of success for all, including those who are free from material desires, those who are desirous of all material enjoyment, and those who are self-satisfied by a dint of transcendental knowledge. This stuff is great for everybody. If you have material desires, if you're filled with material desires, absorb yourself in this stuff. If you, what's the first one? Fearless ways for those who are free. If you have no material desires, hear and chant. And finally,
Like
those who are
Sukadeva
already
Swami.
liberated souls, right? The self-satisfied, by the Gyanis, who they're self-satisfied, knowing I'm not even part of this world. They're already liberated souls. It's still satisfying. So it's saying this Bhagavat path is for everybody.
And you know, it's saying it's a fearless path, right? In other words, on those other paths, and this again, you know, bhakti is unique, and we want to be clear, and we spoke about this the other day, that there's a way of being non-sectarian, but still recognizing various gradations that exist, right? And so what's being said here, if you read into it, it's saying that there are other paths that were mentioned in the few verses back, right? There's a path of mystic yoga. He's saying the path of mystic yoga is not a fearless path. The path of Jnana Yoga is not a fearless path in the sense that I might put a ton of effort into it and never achieve the goal. Right? You with me, Raghu?
I'm with it. I just had to send a Google image of a Sitapal to you.
I had a feeling you weren't with it.
Fruit gifted by Sita to Lord Ram.
Okay.
It is a Cheramoya.
So there's a verse, this beautiful verse. Like, well, even if you go to Bhagavad Gita, right? There's a famous verse. What is it? 240. How does it go? Nehabakramo nashosti. You know that one, Raghunath?
Say the first word.
Nehabakramo nashosti. Pratyavayo navidyate. Svalpam apyasya dharmasya. Chayate mahato bayat. In this endeavor, there's no loss or diminution, right? Other yoga paths, you put effort into it and you can lose it, right? Other path of karma, let me do all this pious work, let me do this ritual to try to get a result, but you ultimately lose the results of that. Bhakti yoga is the one path where the beginning and the end are the same. It's so holistic that from the very beginning, the goal is to develop love for God, and whatever you achieve on that stays with you. Where the other ones are, you're preparing yourself. Like in, say, in Ashtanga yoga, I want to have a perfectly still mind. When I finally achieve that, then I can dedicate my mind to realizing God. Or in Jnana yoga, I want to break every material attachment in my mind, so that once I've done that, I can dedicate myself to God. But in Bhakti yoga, it's like I'm going to dedicate myself to God right now, and then through that path, I'm going to get a still mind. I'm going to become free of all material desires, etc. It's unique in that sense. And the special benediction that's offered in it is that whatever one achieves, there's no fear that it's going to be lost in any way, that it will lead one down to a result that they're ultimately not searching for. There's a verse in the 11th canto where, again, a naked sage is speaking, right? The Navi-yogendras are speaking. And they say, one who accepts this process of devotional service, this is text 11.235 in the Bhagavatam. It says, one who accepts this process of devotional service will never blunder on his path in this world, right? One who is practicing bhakti, if that intention is sincere, that I don't want anything for myself, I simply want to give myself to God, if that is your sincere intention, then it says you'll never blunder. One who accepts this process of bhakti will never blunder on their path in this world. And then it says, to make it even more clear, even while running with eyes closed, they will never trip or fall. Right? It's special and it's unique. It's the most holistic, and because the intention is right, there's no fear. And if Would you like to say anything about that, Raghunath? I can see you're not listening to
No,
me.
I'm what do you call it? I'm a little bent right now. I got some issues with some people on the message board right now because they're trying to like throw me off here. They're just saying the soursop is the cherimoy, and it's just not. That's all. That's all, Kaustubha. We're having a little fruit battle. Soursop, sweet sop, cherimoya, sitapal, rampal. What the hell is going on? All right. I'm back. Shall we continue?
Yes.
Sorry about that.
Why don't we go back and read some of the purports?
Let's go start at 5. Read the purport. Get me off my fruit anger right now. It's going on in my mind.
Let's read the purport to text 6, where he said the highest perfection in human life achieved either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, by practice of mystic powers, or by the perfect discharge of occupational duty, is Ante Narayana Smrti, is to remember the personality Godhead at the end of life.
That seems like a good verse to memorize too.
At least that, right? At least the Ante Narayana Smrti.
Ante, because that's one of those ones you can really break. Ante means the end, Narayana, Lord, Smrti, to remember.
Yeah.
Narayana is the transcendental personality of Godhead beyond the material creation. Everything that is created, sustained, and at the end, annihilated, is within the compass of the Mahatattva, or the material principle, and is known as the material world. The existence of Narayan, or the personality of Godhead, is not within the jurisdiction of this Mahatattva, and as such, the name, form, and attributes, etc., of Narayan are beyond the jurisdiction of the material world. By the speculation of empiric philosophy, which discerns matter from spirit, or by the cultivation of mystic powers, which ultimately helps the performer to reach any planet of the universe, or beyond the universe, or by discharge of religious duties or dharma, one can achieve the highest perfection, provided one is able to reach the stage of Narayana Smrti, or constant remembrance of the personality of Godhead. It's okay that I'm reading this, or did you have a particular chunk you wanted to read?
No.
Okay. This is possible only by the association of a pure devotee, who can give a finishing touch to the transcendental activities of all jnanis, yogis, or karmis, in terms of prescribed duties defined in the scriptures.
So that's a real interesting way to phrase it, but really clarifying.
The finishing touch, isn't that cool?
Yeah, so like for a yogi, let's say an Ashtanga yogi, right? And this is kind of what I was just mentioning before. The path of Ashtanga yoga is a path of stilling the mind. And therefore one follows yama and niyama, because if I don't have the right lifestyle, it's going to be difficult to settle my mind. And one practices asana for the purpose of all of the systems in the body, the respiratory, circulatory, et cetera, that they're all flowing very smoothly, because that's going to help settle my mind. And then pranayamas to further help settle the mind. And pratyahara, withdrawing the senses, still more. And then the practice of controlling the mind from dharana to dhyana and ultimately to samadhi is all to get that mind perfectly still, because our mind is distracted by so many things. But if I can get the perfectly still mind, then what Prabhupada's saying is right here, the pure devotee can put the finishing touch on that. Now that your mind is settled, we can bring it to its ultimate goal, which is to connect it with God, with love, right? In Jnana Yoga, the idea is I'm going to analyze with cold hard analysis every material desire that exists in my mind, the sentimental ones, the all the different attractions that are in my mind. I'm going to analyze them, and then I'm going to, having thoroughly analyzed it, I'm going to break every one until I'm sitting here with a mind that's free of material desire. Very difficult path. Both these paths, very difficult paths. But the point is, if you can achieve that, then as it's stated in the Bhagavad Gita. You see, Bhagavad Gita will show how when you do Ashtanga Yoga, like in the 6th chapter, he'll say it's all about finding me within your heart, with love. With the famous verse from the Gita is about Jnana Yoga. Bahunam Janmana Ante. Bahunam Janmana, at the end of Ante, Ante of Bahu Janma, many births. Jnanavan, right? One who possesses, who has achieved the goal of Jnana. Mam Prapadyante, they surrender unto me. The devotee comes along and adds that finishing touch. Okay, you're free of material desires. Good work. It was long and hard, and it took many births. But then they come along and they give that finishing touch. Now that your mind is free of material desires, connect with God. So he's saying, and the karmis, do your work, but do it for me, Krishna will say. So the Bhagavad Gita is showing how these are all valid paths, some of them difficult, particularly difficult. But the goal of it all is ultimately to connect with God. And in the path of bhakti, you practice that from the beginning. But Prabhupada here says that the pure devotee can give the finishing touch to the transcendental activities of the Gyanis, the yogis, or the karmis.
Should I continue or you want to do the next?
No, let's keep going.
This is possible only by the association of a pure devotee who gives the finishing touch. There are many historical instances of the achievement of spiritual perfection, such as that of Sanakadi Rishi, or the 9 celebrated Yogendras.
I was just talking about them.
We're just talking about them, who attain perfection only after being situated in devotional service of the Lord. None of the devotees of the Lord ever deviated from the path of devotional service by taking to other methods as adopted by the Gyanis or the yogis.
It's just another way of saying, he's saying, here's the Sukadeva Goswami is one example. Here he's giving another example of the Nava-Yogendras who had achieved the goals of the other yogas, but then they found their perfection in bhakti. And he's saying nobody goes the other way. Nobody achieves the goal of bhakti. You won't read about this in the Puranas and so on. Someone who achieved the goal of bhakti, but then left that behind to achieve the goal of mystic yoga or something like that, to merge into the oneness or something like that.
Mm. Everyone is anxious to achieve the highest perfection of this particular activity, and it is indicated herein that such perfection is Narayana Smrti, for which everyone must endeavor his best. In other words, life should be molded in such a manner that one is able to progressively remember the personality of Godhead in every step of our life. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, that's an interesting way. That's how I strategize, right?
Yeah, it's like you got a life plan. How can I remember the personality of God in this phase of my life?
Yeah. And who am I going to associate with? How am I going to spend my time? What do I do with my free time?
What are my hobbies?
What are my hobbies? Yeah.
What do I consider recreation?
How do I connect everything that I do? Like maybe I can't change my occupation, but how can I connect it and see it in such a way where I'm progressively remembering the personality of God at every step?
It's like when we go on pilgrimage. It's sort of like a vacation. I'm frozen, but ignore me. It's like a vacation, but it's not a vacation. It's a meditation. It's like it's a time where we just go and absorb and remember. So it's sort of like you start to shift things in your life. You start to become the things that were normal in the old days. Because what is sort of like vacation? Let's use vacation as an example. It's a time to forget about life. You go on a cruise, it's all you can eat, or you go somewhere where you don't have to think about the workplace, or you want to just get away. But like on a pilgrimage, you're getting away to go deeper, to go inside. Or meditation is a way you're getting away, but to go inside, not to just, I'm sick of everybody. You just want to go inside. So I like this concept of a strategy. Everything that is in my life, I have to now direct towards going inside to get connected. Okay, we're on text 7. How are we doing for time? We got 4 minutes.
Why don't we jump ahead and just read a little bit from the purport to 2110, which read, that very Srimad-Bhagavatam I shall recite before you because you are the most sincere devotee of Lord Krishna, one who gives full attention and respect to hearing Srimad-Bhagavatam achieves unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord, the giver of salvation.
Nice.
Purport.
Srimad-Bhagavatam is recognized by Vedic wisdom, and the system of receiving Vedic knowledge is called Avaroha Pantha, or the process of receiving transcendental knowledge through a bona fide disciplic succession.
So that means that rather than climbing up to it, it's handed down. It's not something that one achieves by the strength of their own effort, but it's something that is handed down to one.
Ever hear this analogy? If you want the mango, you can't shake the tree, or the mango just falls and gets all dented. Got to be handed down from people in the tree. You like that analogy?
Sure.
Keep it. You can use it.
Thank you.
For advancement of material knowledge, there is a need for personal ability and researching aptitude. But in the case of spiritual knowledge, all progress depends more or less on the mercy of Guru. The spiritual master must be satisfied with the disciple. Wow, that's a big statement. The spiritual master must be satisfied with the disciple. Only then is knowledge automatically manifest before the student of spiritual science.
So the guru wants to see that you're serious and you're cultivating all the qualities of a yogi, right? They want to see that you're becoming kind, you're becoming tolerant, you're becoming, you're letting go of the materialistic pursuits, that you're dedicating yourself. And it's that disposition that makes one receptive to the teachings of the Guru, the mercy of the Guru.
The spiritual master must be satisfied. Only then will the knowledge automatically be manifest before the student of a spiritual science. The process should not, however, be misunderstood to be something like magical feats, whereby the spiritual master acts like a magician and injects spiritual knowledge into his disciple, as if surcharging him with an electrical current. That was like the idea. I think some gurus would give this Shakti Pat and like bang him on the head. Familiar with that? The electrical current theory?
You're saying you like that. Prabhupada is saying he doesn't like that.
No, I'm not saying it. I'm saying that was like a thing. That was a thing in the 70s.
Yeah.
Probably still a thing. It's not magical. The disciple can receive such teachings, not exactly. The bona fide spiritual master reasonably explains everything to the disciples on the authorities of Vedic wisdom. The disciple can receive such teachings not exactly intellectually, but by submissive inquiries and an attitude of service. The idea.
Nice. It's such a great explanation, right?
Yeah.
It's nothing. It's not like some magic. You get hit on the head and you get some shock, and I was transformed. But it does. But it is. But it's not exactly just academic learning either.
Sure.
Right. There's a combination of one's submissive service attitude combined with the reasonable questioning and the reasonable answers, and a very sincere endeavor to become worthy to receive it.
The bona fide spiritual man reasonably explains everything to the disciple on the authorities of Vedic wisdom. The disciple can revive such teachings, not exactly intellectually, but by submissive inquiries and service attitude. The idea is that both the spiritual master and the disciple must be bona fide. In this case, the spiritual master, Sukadeva Goswami, is ready to recite exactly what he has learned from his great father, Srila Vyasadeva, and the disciple, Maharaj Pariksit, is a great devotee of Lord Krishna. A devotee of Lord Krishna is he who believes sincerely that by becoming a devotee of the Lord, one becomes fully equipped with everything spiritual. This teaching is imparted by the Lord himself in the pages of the Bhagavad Gita, in which it is clearly described that Lord Sri Krishna is everything, and that to surrender unto him solely and wholly makes one the most perfectly pious person. Thus, this unflinching faith in Lord Krishna prepares one to become a student of the Bhagavatam. And one who hears the Srimad-Bhagavatam from a devotee like Sukadeva Goswami is sure to attain salvation at the end, as Pariksit Maharaj did. The professional reciter of the Bhagavatam and the pseudo-devotees whose faith is based on 1 week's hearing are different from Sukadeva Goswami's. So they try to have like these
Bhagavat Saptaha.
Yeah, it's almost worth not going into right now. It's a thing. It's a thing, but it's not a thing so much here, I guess. It's a thing in India where you're not like really dedicating your life to your transformation. It's sort of like, yeah, I'm going to take a little dip into the Bhagavatam. It's like taking a workshop.
Anyway, yeah, it's the attitude's not there that's being described here.
The attitude's not there.
So the result won't be the same. All right.
All right. We were all over the place today. At least I was. Fruit, aliens. But thanks for everybody for joining us this morning. Some people doing it while they're driving. Some people doing it while they're driving trucks. Some people are doing it at the beach. Some people doing it with their pets. Some people waking up early in the morning. Appreciate everybody. This accountability of showing up. Whenever there's accountability, spiritual accountability, there's no regrets. When we have no accountability in our life, at least for me, I know, there's a lot of regrets. So thanks everybody on my behalf, for my benefit. I'm grateful for everybody here on our live show. If you want to join us live, you can just email Mara, wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. That's where we take email. There's a lot, there's a lot of ways to reach us, Kaustubha. Instagram, Facebook, but the best way is just go through Mara. It just keeps a little bit more organized.
Yeah, it helps.
Wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. Thank you very much for everybody reaching out. And thanks for everybody who's listening to us. One of the others, hey, others, go to your Apple podcast. Tell us your story. Everybody wants to hear your story, how you got into, how your spiritual life has become inspired, and share with us, please. Now we're going to sing and dance.